for an absolutely fantastic week. I hope that you enjoyed the sessions, the networking, and of course the fellowship as much as I did. We are very excited to hear from our governor this morning, but before we do, we have just a few things to take care of. I first want to just offer congratulations to our conference committee planning team on a job well done. This is a committee that meets twice a year to plan themes and general sessions for our conferences, including our winter conference. I want to remind everyone that that conference, our winter conference, will be December 11th through 13th. So if you want to take your phones out and put it in your calendar now at the Hyatt in Cambridge, Maryland, look for more information about that event very soon. Also, we have a very small but extremely talented association staff that makes running these conferences appear easy. But truly it is the success of year-round planning and work and development, both for our team at Mako, but also our alleged planning session. So I think all of this work deserves a round of applause, don't you think? Let's hear it for our conference planning team and our Mako staff. We at Mako take great pride in the diversity, the quality, and the number of our educational sessions. Attendees often say that they learn the most from these informal networking opportunities with peers, where they share their ideas and their solutions to the all too common challenges that we have in local government. I know that I come away from every Mako conference reminded about the opportunity to share these ideas, experiences, and solutions with our fellow officials is extremely valuable, which is why that I and we are so grateful and glad that you're here with us this year. I'd now like to take a moment to thank LIUNA, or the Laborers International Union of North America, for sponsoring our closing session today. Ryan Boyer is the business manager with LIUNA, and he's here to give us some welcoming remarks and to introduce our special guest speaker. Ryan.
Thank you, Johnny. Good morning. Oh, that's great for Mako. That is great. My name is Ryan Boyer, as Johnny said. I'm the proud business manager of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, over 12,000 men and women that build road, bridges, schools, solar farms, and anything you want to build, and over 4,000 of them being residents of Maryland. So I would like to thank you this morning. We provide contractors with safe, skilled local labor force. We're here for a strong and prosperous Maryland, but a strong and prosperous Maryland must include everyone. We live under the standard that was set by our great governor, who I have the privilege to announce today. He said, we don't have to choose between having a growing economy and a fair one. So we at LIUNA, we believe that talk is cheap and actions cost. So since I had the privilege to take over this district council over 2 years ago, I've heard from the minority contracting community that it is hard to work with unions and be a part of a minority contractor. Therefore, we leverage our resources, put our money where our mouth is, to start LIUNA's investment fund team, where we partner with a local bank, Fulton Bank, to provide essential capital at competitive rates. And we are now the guarantor on those loan products, so that if you have a business that is new, you don't have the experience of your business, you have the experience of an over $1 billion pension fund to back you up. And we partner with one of the biggest insurance companies in construction, Ulico, to manage the insurance, the bonding, the workman's comp, auto, all of your umbrella policies, and they do their own underwriting, removing 2 key barriers to entry for all minority and new contractors. And the team part, which is really important to me, is the back office. We use the power of our lawyers, our accountants, at just a 1% fee to help with all that. That is really, really putting our money where our mouth is. LIUNA wants to be a partner with state, local government, and all quasi-governmental entities to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to build. I stand here as a testament to what LIUNA builds. We build people. They took me from the most notorious housing project in Philadelphia to now getting to announce our talented governor. That is a story. And it's only possible with teamwork and people that's willing to make an investment in people that they don't know and they have yet to understand. So now it is my pleasure. Wes Moore is the 63rd governor of the state of Maryland. He's the first black governor in the state's 246-year history. And just the third African-American elected governor in the history of the United States. Governor Moore's life and career has been defined by service. Before entering elected office, he served as the CEO of the Robin Hood Foundation, built and ran a small business that helped underserved students navigate college, and led soldiers in combat in Afghanistan as a captain in the United States Army. In 2010, he wrote The Other Wes Moore, a story about the fragile nature of opportunity in America, which became a New York Times bestseller. He went on to write other best-selling books that reflect on issues of race, equity, and opportunity. Governor Moore is a graduate of Valley Forge Military Academy and College, Johns Hopkins University, Wolfson College, Oxford, where he studied as a Rhodes Scholar. Governor, we are honored to have you here today to give the closing remark. The floor is yours to one of the most talented governors ever to grace our presence, Wes Moore.
Good morning. Good morning, y'all. Good morning. Thank y'all so much. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. It's good to see y'all. And first, can we please give it up for Ryan and the remarkable work that he is doing with LIUNA and beyond. Ryan, I'm proud to call you a friend, man. And I'm proud of your story. And I'm proud of how you continue serving us. And I'm very clear that, that we are going to be Maryland strong. And that is because we are going to be Union strong. So God bless you and thank you so much. Also, I got to give a shout out to our president, Johnny O. Johnny, your leadership, brother, has been outstanding. And I say, I don't know where he is finding all the hours to be able to do all this work. In addition to doing a remarkable job as county executive, and also now your leadership in this organization, and also making sure, and you are campaigning hard, and we're excited to, while it's unfortunate we'll lose you as a county executive soon, we're excited for your leadership in Washington that you're going to be bringing come January. So God bless you and congratulations, my friend. Michael, to you and the entire Mako team, to Virginia White, once again, you all have shown that that there is no party like a Mako party. Listen, anytime you get a chance to come have intense policy conversations on taxation and transportation and traffic fatalities, all while it's 80 degrees outside and everyone else is out in swimsuits, you can tell that there's a reason that folks are here. It's because the content is that good. The partnerships matter that much. The connections are deep. And the impact is lasting. And the beach is pretty good too. Say it again, Jim. Say it again. But it's a joy to be back here again. And I'm sincerely grateful for each and every one of you, for the policymakers, for the elected officials, for the advocates, for the thought leaders, for the public servants, each and every one of you, the people who understand that the beauty of our state is that our state is so all-encompassing, and that everybody has a voice, everybody has a say, everybody has a role, and that the power of our growth means that that has to be our continued North Star. And you know, I've had the joy of now being able to officially be called your colleague now for about a year and a half. And so we've had a chance to have a year and a half of being able to really work together to make things better for the people of our state. And so I want to spend a little bit of time this morning talking about what the next steps are that we have to be able to accomplish together to make sure that we can truly leave no one behind. So I know the first half, well, the entire time for our administration, the first year and a half, that a lot of our conversations have been focused exclusively around one question, and that question is simply this: how do we get Maryland's economy growing again? Because so many of the conversations have revolved around the issue that it hasn't been, and we had to fix that. Because when I first entered office, our economy was not just stagnant. Our economy had stalled. That if you look at Maryland's economy from 2017 to 2022, the national economy grew by 11%. During that same period of time, Maryland's economy grew by 3%. It's just math. And the irony of that math is this, is that during that time, we were consistently ranked low on affordability, consistently ranked low on wages, consistently ranked low on population decline, consistently ranked low on education and labor force participation and employment. And also during that time period, that same time period of 2017 to 2022, do you know what also was happening? It was this, that during that time period, our budget increased by over 70%. So again, it does not take an accounting major to figure out that something's wrong with those numbers. The problem wasn't that we weren't spending. We were spending. Where our budget grew by over 70% during that time, we were spending, we just weren't growing. We had to fix that. Because the problems beneath the surface were hidden by the billions of dollars of federal money that was coming up to get us through COVID. But billions of dollars in federal surplus is not a structural surplus. It's a sugar high. And again, it does not take an accounting major to understand that anyone who's talking about things like inheriting a structural surplus, you are either one of two things. You are just either factually incorrect or you are politically motivated, because there's no math behind that statement. Federal injections of cash that was one-time cash is not a structural surplus. So we had to address the fact that we were spending, we just weren't growing. And so our strategy has been focused on three basic pillars: increasing access to work, wages, and wealth. And those would be the guidelines that we would then push forward this work. So first, we had to focus on getting Marylanders back to work. Because in the status quo, we had too many parents that find themselves choosing between a job or making sure that their children were safe at home. And so this administration and this team, and by the way, I just want to also give a huge shout out to all of our cabinet secretaries and our agency heads who are here today, who are doing remarkable work on behalf of the people of this state. And thank you for raising your hands to serve. So this administration decided that we were going to deliver historic investments in childcare. Because if you want to get people back into the workforce, particularly get women back into the workforce, you must invest in childcare. And together, we have helped an additional 16,000 children because of those investments in childcare. And we also understand that no one should be barred from entering the workforce because of a conviction for something that now is no longer even illegal. And so that's why our administration pardoned over 175,000 cannabis convictions, the most sweeping state-level pardon in our nation's history. And on top of that, we've worked with our partners to be able to make sure that we've delivered record funding in job training and apprenticeship programs, because not everyone has to attend a four-year college in order to be economically successful. And in 20 months, we have seen over 3,000 new apprentice graduates enter into Maryland's workforce. And just last month, we celebrated the first ever commencement of our history-making service year option and Maryland Core programs. So here's the exciting part. It's already showing signs of success. Just yesterday, and I look at these numbers religiously, y'all. And just yesterday, I was looking at new data. And the newest data showed that Maryland added over 6,100 jobs in July, and our unemployment rate remains one of the lowest in the country at 2.8%. So, to boost wages, we introduced in our first months legislation to be able to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, because gone to be the days when you have people who are working jobs, and in some cases multiple jobs, and still living at or below a poverty line. And that law took effect in January, and it raised the wages of over 163,000 Marylanders who needed and deserved that raise. We also moved in partnership to draw more funding from Washington to create more jobs and stronger wages and stronger benefits, and that push included resources for the historic Frederick Douglass Tunnel project in Baltimore, which will create over 30,000 new good-paying jobs in this state of Maryland. We've also been tireless in our efforts to boost wages for Marylanders who serve the state, so we can recruit and retain top-notch public servants. That includes things like making sure that we're supporting the members of our National Guard and passing legislation to make Maryland the first state in the country that now has a pathway for free dental care and health care for members of our National Guard. That includes passing legislation that increases the amount of PTO and paid time off the members of our National Guard have who are also serving the state, because somebody should not be using their PTO to serve their guard duty. And if a person is willing to put the flag of our country on their shoulder, they should be able to use their PTO for things that PTO should be used for. And we partnered with our friends over at AFSCME and the U.S. Department of Labor to provide $23 million in back pay to current or former state employees who have been underpaid by our predecessors. And by the way, we have worked to give our state workers a pay increase not just once, but twice already in our administration. Because we actually want to incentivize people to serve. We want to incentivize people to raise their hands. And if we do that, we are going to have the kind of workforce and the kind of push that is necessary to make sure that Maryland wins this decade. And under our leadership, the state of Maryland has made critical reforms to the procurement process to ensure small businesses can compete fairly, and to date, we have delivered over $2.3 billion in state contracts to minority business enterprises. And I want to thank many people in this room, too. And I want to thank the members of MACO. And I want to thank members of the General Assembly. Because also this past year, we did something that many people thought was not going to be possible. We were able to work together to pass the most comprehensive housing package of any Maryland governor in recent history. This package that we got done together, it's going to help us to turn more renters into homeowners. It's going to help to drive generational wealth, and it will help to bolster our state's housing market. And today, we have more Marylanders than before who are waking up and going to work than we did before. We know that now, today, wages are up, and we are building a stronger pathway to prosperity for all Marylanders and not just some. But I do want to be clear. The next leg of this mission to address our fiscal challenges, it will be harder than the last one. And right now, everything is on the table. Just last month, we made mid-year budget adjustments as a first step to focus our investments. In partnership with the Board of Public Works, we reduced spending by nearly $150 million. And don't forget, though, we did it without cutting a penny from childcare or Medicaid or K-12 education. We chose to protect these priorities by simply studying the data. Because we know that when the cost of childcare increases, female employment decreases. We know that when Marylanders don't have health care as children, it is harder to move up the economic ladder when they are older, and unfortunately, oftentimes, child poverty means adult poverty. We know that when children aren't learning, when they're not getting the basics of how to read and write, they will not be able to compete in a modern economy, and we need to make sure that all of our children have a chance to not just compete, but have a chance to grow in the economy that we are building in the state of Maryland. And so the facts told us that we must protect childcare, we must protect health care, and we must protect education. And that's exactly what we did. This administration doesn't move on blind hope. We don't do blind hope. We move on data. Data is required for the decisions that this administration is going to make, and that will be the standard going forward. And over the last year and a half, our administration has stood up a performance cabinet to help us track data on a number of state programs, and that work is being coordinated by Asma Mirza, the first Chief Performance Officer in Maryland's history. When I worked in the private sector, there are a few things that were very clear. One thing was data was everything. Every program and priority was closely watched for its return. And so now we're simply applying that same mindset to state government. And this year, we will put data at the center of our budget process. I'm requiring state agencies to cite evidence when proposing new budget investments. That way, we can consider what we know works when making a decision about every single state dollar that goes out. The things that work will get funded, the things that don't, won't, and there will be data behind each and every decision. I also recognize that the data-driven mindset of this administration is going to force very hard conversations. Conversations that will last over the next 12 months about how our state operating budget will perform. but we will continue to defend priorities that deliver results. We protected initiatives to build electric vehicle charging infrastructure and improve resiliency. We protected investments to drive growth at the Port of Baltimore. We protected investments that is going to secure infrastructure enhancements for the new FBI headquarters that will be coming to Greenbelt. And just like the budget adjustments that we made in July, we're going to do what so many Maryland families are doing every single day. We're going to defend our priorities while choosing to live within our means. We are 5 months away from the next legislative session and introducing our new budget. And our work will unfold over the coming months at a strategic pace. But part of that process means we will continue traveling all over the state to gather input and to gather insight. Because together, we won't just get Maryland back on track with solid financial footing. We will deliver quantifiable and irreversible results for the people who elected us to do exactly that. And we will be data-driven and heart-led in our work. Now, I do want to end this by discussing one of the keystones of our commitment to delivering results in the next coming year. That keystone is education. A world-class education system is the prerequisite for all of our dreams as chief executives and the dreams of the future generations whose job it is that we are preserving and whose future we are protecting. Education is going to be the foundation that we build everything else on, because think about it. Every single goal that we have relies on that. Tell me how any of us are going to accomplish anything that we are trying to get done if you do not have a world-class education system in any of your jurisdictions. It is a prerequisite to make sure that every single one of our children, no matter where they are born, no matter who they are born to, no matter what neighborhood they call home, that they have a chance to achieve every single God-given dream that they have and that they deserve. And that is why I am fully committed to implementing the blueprint for Maryland's future and making sure that we can see that promise come to fruition. The blueprint is one of the most consequential bills to ever pass in the Maryland General Assembly. And we know that because of that work, we are already expanding access to preschool, which we know is an investment with the highest return. If you invest early, that is the largest societal ROI that you are going to get on that investment. That we have increased teacher salaries by 10% across the board, and the number of students in state apprenticeship programs has quadrupled. That the average state support in K-12 education during my predecessor's first term was around $6.3 billion. In this year's budget alone, our administration secured $9.2 billion for K-12 education, nearly a 50% increase. A world-class public education system is a prerequisite for our state's success. So we will invest in what works. And we will make our vision for a world-class education system a reality. But if there's one thing that legislative history has taught us, it's this. Laws of enormous potential must always be refined after they are passed. I mean, think about it. The law that created Social Security has been amended over 12 times. Right? The Maryland State Constitution has been amended around 200 times. They have been amended because making adjustments to legislation when necessary is how we will ensure programs can keep pace with the reality on the ground. So let's not forget, work on the blueprint began in September of 2016. In fact, if I can ask everybody, can you please, if you're in the same job that you were in September 2016, can you please raise your hand? Okay. So about 10 hands just went up. Let's not forget, when the blueprint was being negotiated, there was a word during all those negotiations that none of us had ever heard before. That word was COVID. So a lot has changed since 2016. And we've gotten through the pandemic, but we are still dealing with the long-term consequences of the pandemic. We also know that we now have an administration that is committed to this legislation's success, instead of one that is committed to demonizing it and killing it. We now know that we have an administration that is ready to work with local jurisdictions who believe in the goals of the blueprint but do not feel like they were part of the process in making it real. I've heard you loud and clear. And I know that in the work that we need to get done, we need to get it done together. And the process to get us to that world-class education system that all of us want, every one of us want, it's going to require every one of us to be at the table. We now know that we have a superintendent of schools who is not just committed, but capable of working in partnership to make the goal of a world-class education system a reality, and I could not be more proud that the author of the Mississippi Miracle is now Maryland's own. We must be nimble in the face of change. And that's exactly what we plan on doing over the process of this next year. We've got a once-in-a-generation opportunity to be able to make Maryland, once again, a leader in public education. And I believe deeply that we can seize that opportunity, and I believe deeply that we must seize that opportunity. But only if we do it in partnership. Only if we do it together. Only if we can do it in a way that you all know that your concerns are being heard by us. And the path forward is one that we're going to drive forward together. As chief executives, you're all on the front lines of this process. And I'm asking for your help to get this done. The blueprint conversation is just one of many difficult discussions that we will have over the next 12 months. But in Maryland, we do not shy away from difficult. We lean into it. And we get big things done together. I know that because I've had a chance to see that firsthand. I know that because I had a chance to see what happened 5 months ago. When at 2:02 in the morning, my phone rang and was notified that the Francis Scott Key Bridge had just collapsed. But in that moment of crisis, I also saw how Maryland rallied. In that moment of crisis, I saw how County Executive Johnny O rallied. In that moment of crisis, I saw how County Executive Stuart Pittman rallied. In that moment of crisis, I saw how Mayor Brandon Scott rallied. But it wasn't just the people who were near the site of the collapse who stepped up. It was Marylanders from all across the state who stepped up. It was first responders. It was small business owners. It was people who were leading nonprofit organizations. It was neighbors who simply opened up a home so first responders could come in and get a hot meal or a shower. It was the entire state. It was President Paul Edwards from Garrett County who was one of the first people that reached out. It was my friend John Barr from Washington County who rallied. It was President Chuck Callahan from Talbot County who rallied. It was Bill Ferguson and Adrian Jones and the entire Maryland General Assembly who rallied. It was our federal delegation, and it was the President of the United States who rallied. Because in the days after the collapse, if there was one thing that I knew, was that we weren't alone. That our pain was the world's. Our struggle was everybody's. And I saw how this entire state stepped up and said in that moment, we are not just one Maryland, but we are Maryland strong. And I saw how because of that force, because of that determination, because of that push, that we were able to not just bring closure and comfort to the families of the 6 victims who we lost that day. They were not just able to make sure that all of our port workers and their families were supported, but also when people told us that it could take up to 11 months to clear the federal channel, that because we worked together, we got that channel cleared in 11 weeks. Because Maryland stood together. And I remember a social post that I read from our friends over in Allegheny County. And it spoke to that moment that we found ourselves in. And the post read, "We may be separated by counties, stretches of miles of interstate between us. They, the city, us, the mountains. Yet we bond over our flag. We bond over Old Bay. We bond over Maryland blue crabs and being a small but mighty state." So my fellow Marylanders, that's what it means to be Maryland tough. We've got a long way to go. We made a lot of progress so far. And we've shown that we can do big things together. But we've also shown that the only way we can get it done is together. So while we have a long way to go, here's what I know is true. I would never bet against Maryland. I would never bet against us. I would never bet against what we can get done in this moment. Because there is no challenge that is too great for us to overcome. There is no fight that we cannot win. And do you know how I know that? Because I've seen what we've been able to get done thus far. I've seen what we can do. And I'm proud of the fact that I think in this moment, people will tell the story about how we truly became a state that in partnership, that we chose to leave no one behind. And we got it done. So God bless you guys. Thank you for all you continue to do. And thank you for continuing to be our partners inside of this work.
Governor Wes Moore, everybody. I know the governor has a busy schedule, but even in his absence, I just want to echo when he talks about stepping up. I think those of us, not